Hello everybody, how's it going? I'm Alejandro Perez, the CGI Nerd, and in this video we're going to be continuing from the previous video where we were talking about variables. Now in this lesson we're going to be looking at using variables to do operations like addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and so forth. We're doing this in blueprints in Unreal, so let's get started. We're going to right click, Blueprints class, actor, and this is going to be a my operations. And then we're going to go to the event graph. In this case, we don't need these two. We're not going to be working on it. We'll do it the just event play to begin with, and let's create a variable. So I'm going to start off with a integer. I'm going to call this my int, and let's set this to an integer value here. There we go. So we can set a value where we drag this in over here, and we go to set, and we can give it a value right here. But since this is kind of like the beginning state, when we look at it, we can also get a value, and we can use it in another way. And when we look at this variable information here, if we go all the way down to the bottom, we have the blueprint value here, the default values. So if I compile this, it needed to be compiled first. We have a integer value here. So I can say this is like 45, something like that. So I have a integer here that it has a default value of 45. Let's go ahead and create another variable. It's going to be an integer also. And my int 2. Okay. And then I'll drop this in. I'm going to do get value, and then I'm going to compile this so that we can do the default value, and let's say this is 50. Okay, so we want to take these two integer values, and we're going to add them together. If we right click here in the event graph, we can see all the actions that we can do, and what we're going to actually be working with is a math operation, and we're working with integers right now, so we can add the integers together, and we have a integer plus integer right here as an option. So we have plus, divide, multiplication, and subtraction. In this case we want to add, so we just search for it that way, but also if you right click you can type in integer plus, and then we can filter it out that way by typing out once we right click. Just two different options to get there. So right now if we do this, let's create a print string, and like we saw in the previous, or actually we haven't done it yet, but if we take this and we connect it into the print statement here, we can see that we're printing a string. A string is a specific type of variable. It's purple. In some instances, we can actually convert one to the other. So when we get this conversion box, and it has a little bit of compatibility, so that way we can connect that. We want to execute this at the beginning of play. There we go. Let's compile this. So right now we're taking 0 plus 1, and it should give us a result of 1. Let's take this blueprint here, throw it into the scene, and play it. We can see we get a value of 1, which is exactly what we expected. Now let's connect these variables into these values here. We're going to go from my int for the top value, and then my int2 is going to go here into the second value. There we go. So it's going to take the value from this one. We look at it, the default value is 45. The default value here is 50. Let's compile all of this together. Minimize, it's already in our scene, and play. And we can see that we get the value there. It's a little bit hard to see. We can look at it in the output window. We have 95 that it outputted for us, so that is great. That is exactly what we want. Let's go back into the blueprint. So that's how we add two integers together. I'm going to get rid of these things. I'm still going to want to print a statement. I just want to show you kind of some other values too. So let's say we had, in this case, we had a vector, so 3 values, like a location, x, y, and z. I'm going to call this my vector. And I'm going to drop it in here, get vector, and let's compile this so that we can set a default value. So we have x, y, and z. We have here, we can put 100, 2, and 5, and just so that we have different values in each one of them. It's yellow, so the yellow, this kind of mustard yellow color, is a vector color. We can try to connect it into a string. Let's see. It has some compatibility there, so we can see that it's going to try to convert it and print it out there. And let's play this, and we can see we have the x, y, and z. It tells us all 3 of the values there. With the output log right here, x, y, and z. That is what it printed out. So let's go back into the channel box, and that is good, but what if we want only one of the values, and we were going to add like 2 x values from 2 different vectors, or from one of the ints to that vector, for example. We can still do that. Let's break this off really quick. So how we would get access to that is we can draw a line coming up from that node, drop it here, scroll down to the bottom, and we can break vector. We have that there, and then we get the x, y, and z values, so then we can connect the x into there. So we can see that it changes it from a vector, which is the 3 floats that we have, to have individual floats, and we can connect it from a float to the string instead of the vector to the string. So let's compile this and play it. And we can see we have that 100 value there. Okay, let's go back into the blueprint, and I'm going to break this really quick. So we have that x, y, and z value. If we wanted to, we can see with my vector, we have different values there. We can actually go in and say float plus float. So we're adding 2 floats together. I'm going to take the x value and let's say add it to the y value, and then we can also add an additional pin. So when we do that, we get an extra channel here for addition, and we can add all of the x, y, and z values together and bring it into the string. We are converting that there. That is working fine. Compile everything, and let's test this out. Play, and we can see that it has the value there, 107, which is exactly what we would expect. 100 plus 5 and plus 2 is 107. Great. Okay, so let's get rid of these and do one more quick example. Well, maybe we'll do 2. Yeah, we'll do 2 examples. Okay, so let's add a variable. This time instead of that, we're going to go all the way down to transform. So we're going to name this my transform. There we go. We can drop it in here. We're going to get the values. And let's compile this so that we can get the ability to set the transforms here. So with the my transforms, we basically have 3 vectors stuck together into what is the transform type of variable. And what we're going to do, let's say we set this to 12, 16, and 18, or 81. There we go. And we want to add values from the transform specifically, but we have all these other things that we have to get into. So we can drag this off and break transform like we saw before. And in here you can see that we have the transform, then we have the location, it's a vector, rotation, which is a rotator, and then a scale, which is another vector. So we can go ahead and drag this out here and scroll down to the bottom, break vector. So here now we have the floats together. So then we can take these and do a float plus float and add these like we did last time. And assign it here. We get it to conversion. Let's compile everything together and play this. Yep, so 109 is what we're looking for. Okay, so now we have that where it is able to give us different values together to output a value, and this is how you break apart a transform so that you can get into the specific values that you're looking for. So let's look at the integers right now, and we're going to do slightly something slightly different. So I'm going to get rid of the event play, and we'll do a right click here and let's say left mouse button. There we go. So we have when we press the left mouse button, when we release it, when we got a key. So I'm just going to do a regular press. So when we press the left mouse button, we want to do something. So what I want to do is let's create do my integer. The default value that we had on there was 45. Let's set that to 0. Let's bring that integer here, and let's say we'll get or set my integer. There we go. So we're going to put it on press. So we want to set this value, and then we're going to print it out. And we're setting it to 0, but on every mouse click, what I want to do is be able to get another incremented value. So we're going to do an addition here. So we're going to do int integer plus integer. So I'm going to connect the output from here, and I'm going to do my integer, and we're going to get the integer. So whatever the integer currently is, we are going to take that value and add 1 to it. Then we're going to set the value whenever the mouse is pressed, and when we press the button, it's going to print it out. So let's compile all this, and we can see exactly what's going on. Okay, so one more thing that we need to do in order to get this working is set up the class defaults. And these are some default settings that we can set for the class because we're doing a left mouse button click. It doesn't know where it's getting that from exactly. I'm just going to say player 0 by default for the auto receive input. Okay, so let's compile all of this, and we can go out in here and play. And when we go in here in the viewport, we can see as I click, it is incrementing the value by 1. So that is pretty cool because I can just left mouse button click, and each time I click, it is going up by 1. So we are actually interactively affecting what that variable is. Okay, so I'm going to escape, and that is it for this lesson as well. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.